All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. For those that don't know me here, my name is Ken Smith. I'm give you a little bit of my background. The most important thing there is I'm a home staker with Rocket Pool. And I'll talk a little bit about that protocol and kind of where it is and maybe a little bit of lessons learned that it had over its recent upgrade. And then I'll talk just a little bit about maybe some of the design thoughts of where it's going in the near future here. So as I mentioned, I'll just give you, because there might be some folks unfamiliar with Rocket Pool, I'll give you just a brief, quick introduction to it. I want to spend a little bit of time updating you on its recent upgrade that it had. It's called Saturn One. As the agenda might show here a little bit, there was a bug in that release, I guess, and it's kind of an interesting lessons learned story. It's never a good presentation if we don't do a side quest on the way there. And then I'll talk a little bit about what comes next for Rocket Pool. So many of you are probably familiar with it. Rocket Pool is a fully permissionless, decentralized liquid staking protocol. It has no whitelist, no KYC. There is no curated operator set. It's managed almost entirely via smart contract implementation on the blockchain. Like any LST, there are two ways to participate in it. One way is you just hold ETH, you want to earn yield, you're a liquid staker. You simply deposit, you get your liquid staking token out of it, and you go do whatever you want to do in Ethereum and the infinite garden that it is. Another way is to be a node operator, actually be a home staker like many of us here. And in Rocket Pool's history, it's always kind of varied between which one it needs more of or its lean in. And for a long time, we needed more node operators. So we were here at various different conferences trying to educate people on how to run a node and how to join. But now the pendulum has swung completely over the other way, and we actually need more depositors into the liquid staking pool to kind of fund a very large queue of node operators that are kind of waiting to be matched with additional ETH to form that minimum 32 ETH requirement. And then just in a short summary here, there's the liquid staking token, RETH, right? There's a governance token, what used to be a governance token, but actually now is a governance and yield token, one of the improvements in Saturn One, called RPL. And the way I like to think of it is RETH is the product that Rocket Pool produces, and RPL is kind of a governance and a yield boosting token now. Okay, so where are we? We're at this little yellow line right here. Rocket Pool was launched in 21. It had its last upgrade about a year or more ago. And then just recently had Saturn One, and that came out last month. So the timing of this conference is very good in terms of doing a little bit of retrospective on Saturn One. And then I want to highlight, if I have time, a little bit just about Saturn Two coming up, because in the community right now, there's a lot of debate and discussion about what should be included in Saturn Two here. Okay, so Saturn One, just briefly. Saturn One had a number of upgrades that I've listed on this slide here, but I want to call out just 4 of those as kind of maybe the key enhancements from there. And I think Saturn One was really one that was trying to move the pendulum between how do we make it more efficient for the existing node operators that we have. And Rocket Pool has probably one of the biggest sets of independent node operators. I think there's about 3,400, 3,500 independent node operators. So it is probably one of the biggest aggregations of home stakers that are out there. But they don't have much money, right? They don't have much collateral. So we wanted to find a way to very efficiently stake as much of the liquid staking token as possible. And so it did a couple of things. One of the things it did in Saturn One is it reduced the bond by those home stakers. Historically, Rocket Pool started out with a matching bond of 16 ETH. It was reduced as kind of the risk was better classified and categorized down to 8 ETH. And then finally, it made another step now for Rocket Pool in Saturn One, which now reduces the amount of bond to 4 ETH per validator set. And Rocket Pool right now only is using the 32 ETH validators, right? It hasn't adopted, like in the previous presentation, the 0x02 larger validators, and I think it might be very interested in what Lido had talked about and perhaps supporting that EIP there to kind of increase that. But right now it supports a node operator bond of 4 ETH. And one of the things that it did in Megapools is instead of creating a smart contract to manage each individual validator, it now creates just one contract that they call a megapool. Previously they were called mini pools, to manage multiple validators. So with one smart contract, you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 32 ETH validators, each one of those requiring 4 ETH. And you can see since it launched, there were about 267 out of that 3,400 node operators that did convert and create megapools. And that produced about 5,000 32 ETH validators since the launch last month. Now, one of the things I said is that the pendulum is starting to shift, and one thing we saw is that liquid staking protocols need to become more attractive to liquid staking token holders. And if you look at liquid staking protocols, some of them will charge a node operator commission of up to 25%, some might charge 10%. And Rocket Pool said that it needs to create maybe kind of this adjustable revenue split, right? Before it was kind of fixed, and so you couldn't go back and change it. And we can see a vision forward that we need to adjust to market conditions, right? Perhaps we need to be a little bit more aggressive in reducing the node operator commission to attract more liquid stakers. And so it launched with the ability now to adjust these settings. And this is the current settings that's right there. It only has a 5% base commission. And then currently it has a 9% extra yield. So it's a total of 14% commission if you're a liquid staker. And this could change. There's a lot of debate about actually changing that here in Saturn Two or adjusting that even ahead of Saturn Two. That's in there. But now Rocket Pool has the ability to change these with a governance vote in the protocol. The other implementation that it did in terms of improving the attractiveness to liquid staking holders is if you get a token, right, if you get a liquid staking token, part of the attractiveness of that token is to be able to redeem it at NAV price, at the full price that it would be equivalent to the amount of ETH earnings on the Beacon chain or the MEV rewards, right? And what historically has happened is that it would trade in liquidity markets. And sometimes it would be at a premium. A lot of Rocket Pool's life, you were paying more in the liquidity markets. In other cases, it would sell at a discount. So you acquired a liquid staking token, you were kind of earning rewards, but when you came to cash out and sell, you didn't get the full value of those rewards, right? And so one of the designs that Saturn One implemented is something called the withdrawal buffer. And it's only existed here since the past month, but you can kind of look at it here. And it's designed to be about 1% withdrawal buffer. And for a good part of it, it actually kind of held pretty close to that 1% mark. That would be about 4,000 ETH. But then you can see it dropped out. And recently, since at least Khan's here, it's been near depleted, right? Which means that they have to go now back to the liquidity markets and it trades on a slight discount, right? But ideally, you want to keep your liquid staking token kind of on peg with that NAV there, okay? Okay, and then the last thing Saturn One kind of introduced here is kind of a fee switch, right? Which is to allow the token that was there, the RPL token, to actually earn additional ETH rewards. Okay, and it's called the fee switch in here, and that was that 8% in there. Okay, so let me just go here real quick to it launched, and shortly after launch, there was a bug found. I think even the same day, right? 3 different audits, even some additional audits that were done by community members looked at it. And so the bug was kind of an interesting one. It was multifaceted here. One, there was a change in the Electra upgrade that changed the way in which withdrawal credentials were issued by the Beacon chain, by the deposit contract. You had to wait longer before you got those. Prior to it, a deposit of at least 1 ETH secured a withdrawal credential. The other thing is that the entry queue got very long, right? It went up to about 6 weeks in entry, right? It's the longest the beacon chain entry queue has ever been. And then Rocket Pool is trying to remove the need to have its Oracle DAO. And so it tries to make things as permissionless as possible. And so now it allowed a setting that if no one staked their ETH that they were issued in their validator, you could dissolve them and recover that ETH, right? Like the validator, the node operator failed to perform their duties. And there was maybe a fourth one I didn't mention on here that said, hey, one of the audit teams recommended that we put in some guardrails. I mean, guardrails are usually pretty good in a protocol setting. And one of those guardrails was the amount of time that it would take to make that deposit to get your credential. And it was set too short. It was set at 28 days. And I made mention that just to even get in the queue and get to the front of the queue to get your withdraw credential was 6 weeks. And so real quickly, we realized that, hey, we needed to do a hotfix to extend this period of time. And fortunately, Rocket Pool moved very fast. They were able to propose a fix, populate it, go through its governance process. There are delays in how quickly a patch can be put in, kind of settings controls and so forth. But luckily, they had caught it fast enough that they were able to implement this before that 28-day period. And so all ended up doing very well. I'll mention just in I think 3 minutes that I have left in here, just a couple of side quests, and then I'll mention what's coming up. So there were 2 side quests that were kind of interesting in the last couple of weeks here that Rocket Pool did that I think is worth mentioning. The first one here is it did adopt, and I actually didn't know this, the people at this conference were telling me, it did finally adopt an integrated MEV commit, or I guess it's commit boost, excuse me, into its protocol as a sidecar. So now our node operators can run commit boost in there, and we can participate in the pre-confirmation market. And that's something I've been advocating for quite a while, so it's great to see there. The other thing that was announced right around ETH Denver about a month ago is that Rocket Pool now has a toolkit. One of the things I personally believe is that most of the transactions on Ethereum will not be initiated by humans with wallets. It's going to be initiated with AIs with wallets. And so it now has a toolkit. And these QR codes are active. You can download it, and you could give it to your OpenClaw or Claude Code or whatever you would like to interact with RETH. And I think we're going to see most protocols, instead of just issuing a front end, they're going to issue a front end and a toolkit at the same time. And then last but not least, I'll just leave with 2 things. One, Saturn Two is coming up, and there's a number of interesting topics, I think, for those in the Rocket Pool community to look at. And I'm just going to leave them here because I know I'm at time here. But I would say spend some time to look at it, because these are ones that are going to be designed to improve the RETH yield and attractiveness. And as part of the way it's going to do that is it's going to look at mechanisms to remove underperforming node operators. And so if you're a node operator, you really should take a look at these, comment at them, and make certain that these proposals to kind of force exit underperforming node operators or reduce the node commission is what you're in agreement with. And in line with this, I think one of the great sites, and I definitely want to give it out here in the last 60 seconds I have here, is just this QR code up here for another community member, Steely, that produced, I think, one of the most beautiful dashboards I've seen yet come out of the Rocket Pool community, which is Rocket Dash. And in there, you can see just kind of wonderful graphics. And there's a couple here I shot here that if you're an RETH holder, you can see what the NAV price is in orange and how well the protocol is keeping the NAV price or coming off a NAV price. If you're a node operator, you can actually look up your node and you can see how well you're performing in there. And you can see that there is this, maybe it's a Pareto curve, this 10% or 5% down there that are the underperforming nodes that in Saturn Two, Rocket Pool wants to be able to just cut off that tail to improve the LST experience, right? And so you can go to that website, you can see a lot of that graphics and really begin to understand in that community discussion that's there. With that, I know I'm at time here, so I just put up the slides there and my contact information, and I'll be glad to answer any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Oh. Okay. Well, no questions. Thank you.